everybody. FROC Priority Board would like to welcome you to the candidates night. Like many things, best laid plans. Don't pay attention to anything about the times on the papers that we handed out. We're going to do them in groups. We're going to have the school board representatives first, candidates first, then the city commission, and third will be the mayor. As we get started, we'd like to have this event blessed. Pastor Barnes can come up.
Welcome to Fairview. We're really delighted to be able to share this time with our partners on the FROC Priority Board and be an opportunity for our citizens to gather and learn more about the candidates and the concerns that affect our Dayton community. I see that there must be a lot of faithful Christians here who took the back seats. I would invite any of you. I don't think these people are dangerous, so I'd invite some of you, if you would, at some point. Let's fill in the front so that it looks good for the pictures, okay?
Good idea.
Okay, let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you. We thank you that we live in a community and in a world, in a part of the world, that honors the opinions and the votes of the citizens of the community. We appreciate the privilege of being able to select our leaders and then to hold them accountable to us as a community. And so we ask that in a spirit of cooperation and collaboration, we would hear from our candidates tonight in a respectful manner, that we might truly understand their ideas, their personalities, their dreams, their goals, their desires for our community, that we might be better citizens and better voters. Bless our time together. Amen.
Amen.
I don't do the Pledge of Allegiance. I've forgotten it. Somebody else might do that.
Thank you. I've asked the candidates to allot about 5 minutes to their talk. And then when we get to the end of the group, we'll have the questions. We ask that you put them in writing. Some of them are quite lengthy, so I will get to what the question is. First one on the list is Hazel Rountree, running for the school board.
Thank you, and good evening. You know, in November, almost every year, there's a movie that comes on, The Wizard of Oz. I don't know if any of you've seen that. But one of my favorite scenes from The Wizard of Oz is when Dorothy kind of clicks her heels and says, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's absolutely no place like home." Well, I feel like that today because I have been here at this church before, and I've been a member of the FROC community. Some of you may remember a summer program that was at Faith United Church for many years called the Computer Clubhouse, where we had after-school programs for children. Miss Joanne is smiling. We had after-school programs for children, and we had a summer camp called Choose Success Summer Camp. The FROC Priority Board helped fund it, and also the Neighborhood Association. And not only did I have the pleasure of serving the children in this community, but I also had the pleasure of meeting some of the most dedicated community citizens that I've ever met. So I'm so pleased to be here. I know your good work, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I chose to run the school board for several reasons. The first of which is that I'm a very passionate educator. I've been an educator all my life, since the 7th grade. Truthfully, believe me. I used to have school on my front porch. At the end of the school year, you know that kind of kid. The school janitor would give you globes and blackboards, and kids would come over every day, and I'd be the teacher, even as young as in the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. But by the time I was in the 8th and 9th grade, parents would pay me to tutor their children because I was teaching them how to read. I was teaching them how to write. I was teaching them how to be good citizens. And I think that's important, that someone has a deep passion for education to serve our children. We can't have people defaulting to education as just a second career. It has to be a first choice. Education has always been first for me. I'm the 5th child of 11 children. My parents came up from Alabama, from the backwoods on a small farm. And the most important message that they instilled in us is that you can make any life you want for yourself with education. So we had very strong values. My father would never allow us to bring home C's. We always had to bring home the best grades possible. They devoted their time and energy into helping us be involved in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and music lessons and drill team. I ran track and played volleyball. We had lots of things to do. We were involved in our church. We went to summer camp. We went to Girl Scout camp. That's part of learning too, where kids have to have that motivation. And I mention that because those are some of the things that are not present in Dayton Public Schools right now, because of funding, but also because we as a community have not stepped up and stood in that gap. And that's the kind of educator I am. I want to stand in the gap. I want the teachers to do their job and teach, and I want me as a board member and each of you as community members to stand in the gap. We have to be tutors for our children. We have to be Girl Scout leaders and Boy Scout leaders. We have to open up the doors of the church and offer summer camps for children. The children aren't going on field trips. They're not exposed to going to the zoo and going to plays and just going downtown. So those are the kinds of things that we would like to see the community do. I certainly would. Get more involved, and we need to bridge that gap between the school system and the community. I said there's more than one reason to vote for me. Yes, I'm a passionate educator. I currently work at Wright State University, and I report directly to the president on strategic planning. But there's something more than just that. I'm also a visionary leader. A visionary leader is an individual that's able to listen, to find out what the real issues are, and to come up with very creative solutions. So I'm a solutionist. I'm not going to sit around all day, all week, all year, all month and discuss the issue. I'm going to listen and synthesize information and try to develop a solution that's going to adequately address the issue. That's exactly what we need. I'm not sure if those are my 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Well, as I wrap up my 5 minutes, because I know someone's going to tell me, and I don't have a watch on, but a couple more, at least another minute. And in this minute, what I'd like to do is just kind of share with you my vision for Dayton Public Schools. We have a report card system from the state. That's not going to change tomorrow. It's not going to change anytime soon. So what we have to do is, as a community, get a better understanding of that report card. That is what I've been working on the last several weeks. Meeting with principals, meeting with teachers, trying to understand that test. When I was a little kid, my siblings and I, we played a lot of games. We didn't watch a lot of TV. My brother used to beat me all the time at Scrabble. This is one of my older brothers. And then one day, out of frustration, I said, I don't want to play with you anymore. And he said, I'm so glad you finally got frustrated so I can teach you how to win. He said, you can't win if you don't know the rules. You can't win if you don't know the rules of the game. And that's what I'm saying to us as a community. We cannot improve on that test if we don't understand that test. We got 3 out of 24. That's unacceptable. We need to find out how to be more successful on that test, because that test is here. It's not the only part of education, but it's an important part. I don't care how good or bad the test is, whether you like it or you hate it. It's a part of who we are. So we have to understand it in order to be successful at achieving. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Mr. Walter J. Hickman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Walter James Hickman Jr., and I'm a retired firefighter. What I'm going to talk about today is not necessarily the education system, but about community. How much we need the community to work with the board. Now, the things that I want to do and would do is make sure our children got up-to-date books. Make sure that their buses were on time. Matter of fact, I will start having them setting up schedules as soon as possible, right after school. Ends at the end of the year. Because I don't want to see our young people standing outside, dark, their parents have to go to work, and it's just not safe for them.
Now, when I'm talking about community, I'm talking about every last one of us, myself included. When we see our children, talk to them, speak to them, say hello, because they have feelings too. They'll come to school feeling a lot better, like they're part of society. I think that once they see that we care about them, that it's very important that they feel that way. Well, they're going to keep ignoring us. They're going to keep on getting in trouble and feels nobody cares about them. Now, just because you don't know who the kids are, it shouldn't stop you from saying, get out of the street. I don't want you to get hurt. You don't have to be nasty. Ask them how they're doing in school when they pass by your door if you're out in the yard. Our job as a board member reflects what you as a community expect us to do or want us to do. When it comes to laws being changed or any kind of change, period. The masses can change it a lot faster than 8 people. They really can. And I think everybody here understands it because here at FROC, when I was on the Project Board, Northwest Project Board, I came here for a meeting. And there was a lot of people here. An awful lot. We need the same amount of people at our school meetings, at PTA, at board meetings. So we can find out where and what direction you want to take. I'm not too happy with some of the initiatives that are going on with our 3rd grade or 4th grade, but it's nothing that anyone can do about it. I was talking to someone earlier, they said they wanted us to talk to legislators about some money. The more you get the government involved, the less control we have, less control you have. So that's why I'm saying this community has to step up, volunteer, and work with our children. I am a write-in candidate, and my name is Walter Hickman. And thank you for your time.
Next we'll have Mr. Joe Lacey.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Joe Lacey. I'm currently the president of the Dayton Board of Education. And I do distinctly remember coming to the FROC Priority Board candidate night 4 years ago. It was in the FROC Priority Board building, a catty corner. And we were in a room in that building, and there couldn't have been more than 5 people in there. So this was 4 years ago. You guys have done great since then. This is a great crowd compared to that. And in the 4 years, as I said, I did get to become president for this past year. I have a daughter. I brought my daughter to the last candidate night 4 years ago, and she was at the time she was a 1-year-old, and she was fine at the candidates night. I think I even held her while I was talking. Now she's a 5-year-old, and she really knows, you know, what she wants to do, and she knows everything. I don't really know anything when I talk to her. So yeah, she would, yeah. She would probably not be respectful of my talking points if I brought her today. So she's at home today. But I have her here. She attends Ruskin, and as I said 4 years ago, and I'll reiterate today, having a child in the system is very helpful for a board member because you do get the kind of you have a perspective that our board needs, and I bring that to our board currently. I'm also a certified public accountant, and I believe I'm very helpful in the success that our district has had in keeping its fiscal responsibilities to this community. We've managed to be responsible and to hold our budget. We have also kept our bond rating at a very positive level compared to other urban districts who actually dropped some. And that has saved us a lot of money when we have refinanced our bond that we passed in 2002. As far as how we've done, especially in the past 4 years, we do, like all urban districts that have a lot of challenges, we do need to improve, but we are doing very well. Dayton is compared to other districts that are actually wealthier than the Dayton district. Gone are the days, years ago, there was a long string of time where we were generally the last district in the state as far as performance. Now we are doing much better compared to other districts. Currently our performance index score at 76, we've been at 76 for the past 3 years after we've kind of leveled off after a year of some improvement, or years of some improvement. That we need to improve that, although that 76 for the past 3 years, that has been the record high for the district since these performance scores have been taken. So I do believe that we are on the right track, and I want to keep us on the right track, and that's what I'm working on as your current president of the Dayton Board of Education with my other fellow board members. So thank you very much. I'm Joe Lacey. I'm running for re-election to my 3rd term on the Dayton Board of Education.
And finally, we have Ronald C. Lee.
I probably shouldn't need this because I do have a pretty heavy voice. But to all of those of you who know me, it's good to see you again, and to those of you who don't. My name is Ron Lee, and I have been a board member for the past 6 years. I never saw myself as a board member because I never saw myself as an educator. I had an opportunity that was bestowed upon me to fill the balance of a term after then President Gil Littlejohn resigned. After talking to the wife and family, I took on that challenge. Lo and behold, did I know all of the work that I've done in the past with the city, county as a whole, and most importantly with the priority board system and grassroots organizations, that I was more prepared than I began to realize I was. Because like you, I'm a citizen and I have something to give back. And that giving back to me is the most important thing that I can do in this world, and that's to work with children. The past 6 years of my endeavors have been on legislative issues as well as fiscal issues. And I was given the assignment of the school board's facilities when we were building the new buildings. That left me to the bond issues, which you approved, and how we negotiated that, how we maintain our bond rating, and all those good things. But there was always little other things going on in the district. And I believe at this point in time, and where the district stands today, that we have made grave progress, not only in how we operate, but in what we do in making those things happen for our children. I believe that the district, if we just looked at it as it is today, we will, this year, even in spite of all of the negativity with the new grades, lack of money, will still show an improvement. I finally have come to realize something that was always in my face, was always a part of me and a part of my life, my young adult life, as well as my older years life, yes, because I'm 70. It was the community. The one thing that we have never focused on in my time in the district, whether they did it before or not, I would assume they did. We do not collectively have the city, the county, the district, the business community, and everybody on board. The old adage that it takes a whole village to raise a child is just as true today as it was then. Why I say that is when you look at the programming, our best school, Stivers, Performing Arts School, you look at DECA, Career Academy for college, preparing students for college, and we're doing that. We just renamed Dunbar. We have already instituted a third grade marshal, and the students are now able to work on dual credits, college credits in conjunction with St. Greer Community College as well as their own education. The point I'm trying to get to, that is the deepest in my heart, is we have to save our children in order to save our city. It's just that correct thing to do. If we educate our children correctly and prepare them for the global workforce, we can get our children to stay home as adults and be a part of this community and grow. I came here 52 years ago from up north in Youngstown, Ohio, which was a part of the Rust Belt because of the steel mills, and they were going down. I came here because I couldn't get a summer job to go to college. I came to Dayton, a city of a little over 200,000, and watched it grow to 260,000, and watch it today be a city of 140,000. So the same things that happened up north happen down south in the state. My vision is for the county commission, city commission, chamber of commerce, priority boards, chairperson, the whole city coming together and working together within our buildings will bring the cultural change and environment that is needed in our buildings. The 2 buildings that we have in this city out of 30 that have had the most success have that key element. Along with parents, we still need the community. We need the business sector. We need everybody volunteering and working with our children. So not only do they get an academic education, they get a social education. And that is the direction that I want to go in for the next 4 years. And that's why, in spite of everything that happened to me this year with the losing of my father and 4 uncles, which was very, very dramatic for me, I woke up one day and I began to realize everything that they helped and prepared me for is why I'm still here today and why I want to continue to work with the children in the city that I live in and I love. And I want the children of this city to have that same thing. I am saying to you that a Cleveland plan, a Columbus plan, or Toledo plan is not a plan to work for Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio needs to come together with all of our residents, all of our city and county, and we need to go forward in making a plan for the children and the future of our children as well as the future of the city of Dayton. I thank you, and I hope you vote for me.
Well, we asked for questions to be written, if we had any. At this time, some of the people on the school board have to leave. Any written questions for the school board? For the school board members, what do you consider the most specific, pressing issue to be addressed, and how do you propose to address it?
Well, I asked to go first because I have 2 more engagements. One, there's a town hall tonight at Stivers. It's the 3rd that the city has engaged the whole community to come out and to answer questions, mostly to give questions and suggestions of how we can go forward and better bring the performance for the district, but with the community support. There again, my vision is the community aspect of education for the city, for our children, and for the community.
You know, there's a saying that says you teach what you know. Those are the best teachers. Teach what you know. Well, I think you also have to do what you know. And we know that there's a critical issue that's facing Dayton Public Schools and all schools in the state of Ohio, and that's the 3rd grade reading test. It's going to be a determinant like no other test. In other words, children could continue on to the next grade even if they didn't pass 1 or 2 or 3 subjects. But with this test, they cannot continue. They will be required to stay behind. And that just puts them on a downward spiral. But we know the 3rd graders who are not on reading level right now. We know when they were in the 2nd grade, when they were not on the reading level. So you can make a very educated prediction as to how many students will not be on reading level by April of this coming year in 2014. So what that means is we have to be proactive. We have to be proactive and start designing interventions now. We have to design interventions now. Start in January, we need to identify all the students who are below grade level and start doing more after-school programs and Saturday programs with those students. We need to start now in writing programs for summer school for those children. I know of so many kids that just cannot afford to go to summer school. If you have an intensive reading program in the summer, children can improve 2 to 3 reading grade levels under the right kind of intervention. You have to have a combination of strong reading teachers and learning activities as well as youth development. It's proven. So we need to start now by offering those kinds of programs, and that's where community members can step up.
All these answers are probably interrelated, but for me it's always been attracting and retaining quality teachers. I can see the difference between a quality and a not so great quality teacher, just in people who've worked with my own child. That's the big difference, and that's what we have to work toward as a district is to try to move our resources to the classroom and as we move it to the classroom, the biggest issue is attracting and retaining quality teachers.
As I told you, I'm a retired firefighter. And what's important to me is the kids get to school. But they don't have to stand out in the dark waiting on a bus. That would be my goal, to make sure that problem gets straightened out. Because it's more prevalent than you think. And no guns in the school. Absolutely no guns in the school. Because it's not necessary. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I want to do. I got to deal with 7 other people. But that's what I'm going to push. Thank you.
The other question is similar. It's lack of discipline, both at home and in school, are big issues in our schools. In your opinion, what can be done to rectify the problem of the lack of discipline in the homes and in schools?
I'm going to go back to the quality teacher. A quality teacher can control her classroom and allow learning to happen. I mean, you're going to have, especially in an urban environment, you're going to have children acting out. In an urban environment, because we have only because we have a higher percentage of people with less means, and when you have a higher percentage of people with less means, you've got a higher percentage of children that don't have the home environment or the kind of support for their education at home. That's all it really is. And so, because we have these challenges, I think these challenges can be addressed by a quality teacher. Now, keeping kids under control inside your house, that's something I deal with every day, and that's the job of our parents.
Well, as a classroom teacher, I do know that teachers have to be effective classroom managers. Just sometimes it's a tone of your voice and your body language, and just how you are able to, make eye contact with students. I know when I was growing up, I told you I had 10 sisters and brothers. And my mother was a very soft-spoken woman, but she would give you this thing that we called the look. And she'd look at us, and we would behave immediately because we knew the consequences. So So I think we have to establish a culture of civility. I work at a university, and we have students that come from all over the state of Ohio, and they bring their culture with them. So what we do at the very beginning of the year, and usually even before the school year starts, we have an orientation, and we teach them the rules of the campus. Sometimes we take it for granted that all of us are working on the same set of rules, and we're not. We have to teach and train children. We have to help them understand the rules and the consequences. Children are smart, they can learn rules, and they can learn how to govern each other through peer mediation. Those are the types of programs that I teach. I've seen them in Dayton Public Schools do an excellent job. On the playground, students take turns being a peer advisor, and when there are conflicts, the students are trained on how to approach other students and resolving that conflict peacefully. So with better training and peer mentoring, we can achieve a better culture of civility.
I've stated before that I'm old school. I believe in discipline. A child at 5 years old has developed 90% of his brain. And between the ages of 1 to 5, the parents have to initiate some kind of training. Now, if the parents not able to do it, then the grandparents. Back when I was young, we had big mamas, grandmothers, grandfathers who straightened us out when we didn't do what we were supposed to do. And this is part of what the community should be doing. If I was down the street causing trouble, my neighbor would tell my father, and I had it coming. And I said, "How did you know?" And he would say, "So-and-so told me." So we got to work together in every aspect in this community with our children. They're not born bad, just develop bad habits. So we need to do the best we can with helping our children develop before they get to school. Because you talk about parents have 5 years for the kids, teachers only have 1 year. And some of us expect the teachers to perform miracles. They're not psychologists. They're not mothers. Some of them might be mothers, but they're not mothers of that child. They're not fathers of that child. They're educators.
Before you go, we have one last question. There's concern about, well, I'm not sure. They're concerned about the size of the classrooms and being as large as 30 or 34 in the classroom. And what would you do to reduce the sizes of the classrooms so that the children can be better served?
Now, I'm familiar with large classrooms as I grew up in some schools that had 35 in a class. Well, my suggestion is, since there's so many and it's one teacher, that we have another teacher come in. And those two teachers teach in tandem and work with the kids who are having problems. And that way everybody gets full attention. That's what I like to see done. And that's what I will promote.
I agree, classroom size is an issue. We do have very large classrooms right now because we have been cutting budgets. And that is also an issue that affects, just the quality of instruction in the classroom. It's tough to hire teachers and put them in a huge classroom. So yeah, we may need to ask for more money, specifically directed towards making our classrooms smaller. But I would be in favor of doing that. But we need to have smaller classrooms, I do believe.
Well, as a classroom teacher, I certainly have thought about that issue for many, many years. And here's what my solution would be. I think what we need is a lead teacher. We need a lead teacher that will be the supervisor of the curriculum, that will be the leader in terms of integrating the entire curriculum with one class needs to be integrated with other classes. But then we need paraprofessionals who can take large classes and provide instruction in smaller groups. As long as you have a certified lead teacher that's providing the direction, then you can work with paraprofessionals to help bring the instruction to much smaller groups. And that's just an effective system. You don't need 5 or 6 full-time certified master's degree teachers doing the same thing. You need them leading and guiding other individuals who may not have as much training, but are still qualified and trained educators. That would be certainly be my approach to alleviating the issue of oversized classrooms, because it does impact learning.
Thank you. We have one additional school board candidate. Adil Bagarov. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Adil Bagarov. I hold a PhD in political science. I have a few publications, a few books, journal articles. That's why education is quite important for me and has always been for me and my family. I recognize that education is basically the bedrock of our society. Without strong schools, we can't develop. The problem in Dayton is that most of the schools are not so strong, so we need to raise their academic performance. This is exactly why I am running for the school board. A little bit about myself. I'm originally of Turkish background. As you probably know, there are a couple hundred Turkish families who moved to Dayton as refugees. So building up all those foreclosed properties, starting up businesses and so on. And now they've all realized that, hey, we have our own kids who are growing up and they will be going to public schools. And we don't have the money for private schools. And we don't want to send them to charter schools. So what do? The schools are not so well ranked as we thought back, in our countries of origin, because we always thought that schools in America would be the best of the best. We're coming to the land of opportunity, all the schools are excellent. And then we come here and suddenly we discover that actually it's not so. By our own rankings, the schools are trailing behind. Pretty much, there's only one good school, that's Stivers. Everybody else getting D's and F's. So that's why the community spoke to me, said, hey, why don't you run? Not only would you be the very first Turkish American in such a position, and therefore prove that Dayton is a very multicultural and very welcoming, immigrant-friendly city, but in addition to that, you'll put some of those degrees and some of that education that you've been accruing over all those years to use. So after some thought, I decided to do that. So from what I understand, you folks have a few questions, some very good questions on what could be done to those schools. Obviously, there are quite a lot of things that need to be done, and it's a very long list. But if we are to tackle some of the questions that you've asked here, I think that when we talk about discipline, it's of course unfair to put the full blame on teachers and to expect the teachers to somehow discipline our kids. I'm a firm believer that just like when I was growing up and the teacher was a role model for me, and I feared the teacher calling my parents and telling my parents that, hey, Adil didn't do so well today, and therefore that pushed me to achieve better. I believe in the very same that those old ways, old-fashioned ways, should be the way it is today. Unfortunately, it's not. Very often, kids tell something to their parents, and then parents lay all the blame on the teachers. And I think that's unfair. So the discipline starts at home, because kids spend more time at home. If they come undisciplined from home, you can't discipline them in the classroom where they're spending a few hours, especially in such an environment where there's so many kids. So that's job number one. That doesn't mean, of course, that there are no unqualified, for example, poorly qualified teachers, or there are no some other factors that are also affecting the discipline. But no, of course, everything has to be reviewed and as a whole. But I think all of us need to take greater responsibility as parents and discipline our kids at home, and therefore make them more ready for the schools out there. So that would be, if we start thinking it in those terms, I think it would make it much easier for us to make sure that those schools are performing better and that those kids are more disciplined. Additionally, I think we need to do a far more thorough review of the school budget, making sure that all the money that's being allocated and spent is spent effectively and efficiently. For that, I will be greatly urging, when I am elected, that parents come and pack the rooms of the school board meetings. Unfortunately, this hasn't been the case so far. In the meetings that I have been, most of the chairs are empty. I don't see a lot of parents there. That's very unfortunate, and I would be definitely urging a lot of changes. I will be making sure that parents are coming and that there's a far greater grassroots involvement. So we can be talking a lot about this. I'm ready and accessible and available to speak to you all about all this later on, but I'm being told that there's virtually no time left, and of course there are many other candidates who need to speak. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope to get to know you better, especially after this meeting. Thank you.
Can I get another round of applause for the school board? Thank you. Thank you. Our next candidates, group of candidates, are the City Commission. David Esrati will be the first one.
You know, I've been doing this for a long time. How many of you think I'm crazy? Running over and over and over for 20 years. Raise your hands. That's it? Come on. Unless you tell the truth. How many of you think I'm crazy? Okay, good. I am crazy, yes. When I joined the Army, I volunteered to jump out of perfectly good airplanes. That qualifies you as crazy in a lot of people's books. When I was a college student, I decided to go buy a house in South Park for $14,500. My father came down and said, "Son, you're crazy." When I bought my office building for $2,200, he's like, "You're even crazier." Then I bought 2 cottages across the street. He thought I was crazy then too. But now, my father and my mother live across the street from me in one of those cottages. And they don't think I'm so crazy anymore. You know, the thing is, I think you have to be a little crazy to put up with what we've put up with in the city of Dayton for the last 25 years, because it's been just straight downhill, like soapbox derby, just boom. We've seen people leave, we've seen houses deteriorate, we've seen our community deteriorate. All these times I keep running, I keep saying to you guys, hey, I got some good ideas. In fact, when I look at my literature from 20 years ago, some of the issues I talked about then, we're still talking about today. I am not like the rest of these candidates. Some of them I like. I think I'm friends with all but one. And, you know, I think we have really good candidates, at least for the commission. I don't think you can go wrong with anybody. But we have a big difference between them, because I believe in a different kind of Dayton, a different way of going about it. I mean, from the fact that I videotape every single one of these things, put it up on YouTube to make sure that people are informed. I think open, honest government is important. I think it's so important I went down and protested City Hall and I got arrested. You all remember that. You think I was crazy then? 5 courts didn't think I was crazy. We've got to change things. You've heard the school board members talk about things we need to fix. Well, I got to tell you something. When you got 85% of your students so poor that they qualify for free breakfasts and lunch, and we got 1 computer for every 4 students, we ain't going to cut it. Those kids need to be one-to-one computers, because every job you apply for, every job that's out there requires computer skills. Never mind the fact that our second biggest expense is textbooks. And those textbooks are getting more and more expensive and more obsolete. We can give every student an iPad for a lot less than what our fiscally conservative commission wasted at the corner of Wayne and Wyoming for a Kroger store that never came. They keep saying they don't have any money, but they found $1 million like that to blow up a building downtown that was perfectly good when 2 local developers wanted to develop it. They didn't have any money. Some guy from out of state comes, boom, we got money. We tear it down. Great building, gone. So yeah, I am crazy. I want to put iPads in the hands of every student. If nothing else, just so they have reading materials. You hear about the 3rd grade reading guarantee? You go into those homes, they don't have books. Well, like it or not, books that are 100 years old, 75 years old, are still really good books. I know all of you read Moby Dick, you read Jules Verne. Those books are free and in the You have a device, you can read them. You don't have the device, you got to buy a book. Makes no sense to be buying books anymore. I want to have Wi-Fi over the entire city. This isn't something new or amazing or anything. It's just the fact that Estonia, most of you don't even know where Estonia is, except I think the Turks, they probably know where Estonia is. But Estonia is like a third world nation, and they have had Wi-Fi over their entire country since 2002. And we need faster internet access. It was a great idea the City Commission thought when Google was offering it through Google Fiber, but when they went to Kansas City, we gave up on it. We have a fiber system in the city. We need to expand it. We need to make sure that every student here has the ability to get online and learn at their own pace. I got a story to tell you. There's a kid in Mongolia. You've heard of Mongolia. Not exactly the internet mecca of the world. The kid took the class from MIT, one of those massively open online courses. He aced the class in circuit design, and guess what? They accepted him to MIT. MIT is not an easy school to get into. Kid from Mongolia has a better chance of getting into MIT than kids in West Dayton, because I can tell you there are parts of West Dayton where my cell phone doesn't even get internet access. That's because there's discrimination against poor people in poor communities. We're going to have to do some things ourselves, and we're going to have to do them very different. And that is not going to come from candidates. They're still working for the people who paid off their $260,000 campaign bill for the primary to get 5,000 votes. My time's up. I'm running for $10,000. My name's David Esrati. I am not like the rest of these people, and I hope you recognize that and go out and tell people. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll have David Greer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David K. Greer, and I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. Haven't been anywhere. I had a 31-year career working as a civil service, serving out at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where I retired in 2004. Before I retired, the house I presently live in, I moved in 1996. And a lady came up to me, welcoming me, and asked me to join the Jane Reese Neighborhood Association. I was a little reluctant at first because I was new to the community, just getting settled, but she was persistent. So she talked me into joining, and that's when my career or tenure of being a community activist started. I've always wanted to help people that emanated from an injustice that was imposed on me while I did work at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. An injustice that caused me to want to help those individuals through those situations where they were not being treated fairly. We have antiquated systems that we use here in our city that in principle does the same thing. It does not treat people fairly. And people are so fed up and frustrated that the allegiance that should be there for our city government infrastructure is not as it should be. In 2005, after 3 years of being on the Northwest Priority Board, I was elected chairman of the Northwest Priority Board. As chairman, being the official spokesperson for the people, I was afforded the opportunity to meet people. I received calls practically daily of their issues and concerns. And I was that conduit for those people to those entities that serve at City Hall for services. Unfortunately, the mechanism was broken. You would either be put on hold or passed off onto somebody else, talking to rudely. And I personally was the recipient of those over the years. So I decided that, well, the system's not going to work with me trying to use it from the outside. So I need to do it from the inside. So I decided to run for a city commission seat. My opportunities to be the official spokesperson for the people. It humbled me, and it allowed for me, in conjunction with my experience working for the federal government, where I learned procedures, processes, and protocols, to be able to enhance my people's skills, as well as be able to find those avenues for working issues out. I think I can make a big difference in helping to revamp the methodologies and the mechanism that our city government infrastructure is structured by, to whereas the people are put first. The people are the best resources that any municipality can have, because the people are the ones that generate the revenue through income tax, that generate the revenue through property tax. The people are why we have government infrastructure. We've got to discontinue not serving the people first. Once you have a strong people base with allegiance to the city government infrastructure, then there's nothing that you cannot accomplish, because the people are behind those elected leaders whose responsibility is to create policy for the operations of the city to go forward. November the 5th, 2013, vote David K. Greer for City Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jeffrey J. Mims, Jr.
Hi, good evening. Let's try that again. As a former teacher and a coach, when you say good evening to your group, you want a nice, strong, loud good evening back, Mr. Mims. Let's try that again. Good evening. Good evening. Here we go. Here we go. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you and your organizers for setting up this opportunity for us to share with you some of our thoughts and our vision that we have for the city. Just want to share some things about myself. I have more than 40 years of service to my country and to this community. I'm a Vietnam vet, born in Alabama, brought my parents to Dayton when I was 2 months old, and have lived here ever since. I've raised my children here. I was raised here, and this city has produced what I think some great children who are now adults. And when I look back over the diverse career that I've had in terms of different types of things that I've been involved in, I'm honored to have been in Dayton and seen some of the kind of things that have happened and where we are at this point in time. As a former teacher and a coach in Dayton, I worked in 3 schools. My most significant time was spent at Belmont High School, where I was a teacher and a coach. I've taught everything from math to science to art to jewelry, conflict resolution, coached soccer, coached girls track, and that's an experience. Nonetheless, it was a valuable experience for me in terms of how to deal with young people and help them come to some like mind, if you will, in terms of what the vision and what the challenges are as far as the organization may be concerned. Additionally, I've served in capacity in terms of government relations for Dayton City Schools. I served in that capacity for some 40 years. Was instrumental in being the chief lobbyist in bringing the Senate Bill 272, which provided for all new schools in Ohio, not just in Dayton, but all new schools in Ohio. And also served on the steering committee with the Equity and Advocacy Coalition that filed suit against the state because of unconstitutional funding that we are dealing with. And we are still dealing with the remnants of that. And one of the primary things that Supreme Court justices indicated at that time was that rich communities continue to generate more money than poor communities when we use property levels or school levies with property funds to fund our schools. The second concern was the fact that we had an over-reliance on the property, on school property, but we also had an issue in terms of the money not being distributed to students based upon their need. And then they had one crazy element in there that if school districts borrowed money from the state, they had to pay it back plus 9% interest. And I know that when they loan money to businesses, they didn't charge them at least the interest for it. The fourth area, and the only area that has been sufficiently addressed, is that dealing with school facilities. In 1991, a general accounting office realized and made a report that indicated that we had the worst school facilities in the nation, Ohio, besides Washington, D.C. And that's the only area that we were able to get some significant change in terms of making things happen. Now, so I've had state level experience, I've had national level experience. I was on the executive board for the Council of Great City Schools. I'm currently on the state school board. I've also served as a leader. I was treasurer and vice president and president of the Dayton Education Association. We did tremendous work in terms of working on a collaborative basis with the school system to make good things happen. One of the most significant accomplishments during that time, I think I had probably 3 major accomplishments. One was internal, and that was getting the staff together, getting the teachers together, and I communicated to them that if we did a better job in the classroom, that I could get them good salary, good fringe benefits. And so we began to work on how we market it internally and make good things happen for children, to treat all the children as if they were our own. Secondly, we received a NEA Human Relations Award for developing a strong and positive relationship with the board, the community, and the Teachers Association. And then that collaborative work paid off because in 1988, we were a part of a grant process with the Andy E. Casey Foundation where we received $20 million for this community to help address the non-challenging student issues to make sure that when they went into the schools that they were more receptive to the educational process. Now, I said that to say that I have a track record. I have a track record of success, and I have a track record of making good things happen for this community. And it's good things happen for children who now happen to be adults. Because it was a long time ago when I was in the classroom. One of my former students sitting beside me is Joey Williams, I'm happy to announce. And I'm glad I did a good job with him and some others because they're much larger than I am right now. And I hate to be in a situation where they're throwing rocks or something at me and I can't defend myself. But I want to remind you again, thank you, ask me questions later on. I'm Jeff Mims, I'm committed to this community, and I appreciate your vote on November 5th.
Our final candidate is Joey D. Williams, Commissioner.
Hello, how's everybody doing? Great, great. Jeff, thank you for acknowledging that I was one of his best students, right? You know, Mr. Esrati is right. Most of us up here, we all get along pretty well. Obviously have a special place for Mr. Mims because he was a teacher of mine. I don't know if you guys caught this. He always tries to start off with a little joke about he brought his mother and father here when he was 2 years old. I told him, 2 months old.
Have you been listening?
2 months old? Okay, well, I was telling him, I'm going to one-up him this time, see. My parents, when my mother was pregnant, my father joined the Army, or joined the Army, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He joined the Air Force, and she came up here while she was pregnant. So that's even better, it's just, you know, I got my parents to come while she was pregnant from Texas, okay? No, seriously, hey, it's good to see you all. I see a lot of friends out in the audience. Like we said earlier, it's always nice to be home. As many of you know, I can walk here. I live about 6 blocks away, just behind the old Fairview. So it's always nice to be home. And I'm always nice to come here and say thank you. This community has supported me for a very long time, and I want to say thank you, and I'm here to ask you for your support again as I run for re-election for the Dayton City Commission. For me, really, it's been a labor of love. I really enjoy being on the commission. I'm humbled to be on the commission, and I feel like personally I get so much out of it just having an opportunity to be around the community and learn so much from all of you. At the same time, I'm really excited about some of the things that we've accomplished. And I want to tell you about some of those things. Before I do, I don't want to assume that all of you know me. I want to tell you a little bit of my background. I am from Dayton originally, graduated from Dayton Public Schools, went to undergraduate and graduate finance degree from Central State University, and I received my MBA from Ohio State University, which, by the way, is why I was so thrown. A good friend of mine, he came in here and he brought his son Tyler, and Tyler has a Michigan shirt. So Tyler, you're still my man, but you got that Michigan shirt. I'm gonna get you an Ohio State shirt, okay? So again, I went to Ohio State and got my MBA, I worked about 3 years in Detroit, Michigan at a bank, and I've been working in the banking industry here between Dayton and Cincinnati ever since. So I'm a banking executive, and I can tell people I work on the commercial side of the bank, not the mortgage side of the bank. I'm on the mortgage side of the bank. It's called a lot of heat, rightfully so. But my passion, though, is what I do in the community. And I've had the good fortune of working with a lot of organizations, working with a lot of young people. I love spending time coaching. In fact, we're going to defend our title. The team I coach, we won the state title last year for a group of kids I work with. And we're supposed to go back on the 19th to try to defend Dayton's title. Dayton beat Toledo, Cincinnati, Columbus. So I'm looking forward to that. But I just enjoy being involved in the community, but really enjoy the stuff I've done as a school board member and now as a member of the Dayton City Commission. I want to tell you about why I'm running again and what are the things that I'm most passionate about. Obviously, because of my background, I'm passionate about finance and making sure that we have a sound financial structure within our city. And we've been applauded for that. Moody's and S&P, which are third-party organizations that evaluate cities, we have been upgraded. So when we go out for bonds as a city, our bonds are better. We get better ratings than most cities. And this is happening at a time after the Great Recession where many cities, like Stockton, California, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and even the city I told you I used to live in, Detroit, Michigan, about 200 miles up the road, they filed bankruptcy. In fact, Detroit's was the largest bankruptcy on record for a municipality. So Dayton has done a very good job of managing its money, even though the dollars have gone down. We've stabilized now, but we've done a very good job of managing our money. The other things that are very important to me, as I said, are young people. We've built new recreation facilities, we've revamped others, and we've had all of our employees involved in recreation to improve or get higher certifications. We're working hard to try to bring jobs to this community. We understand that's an issue. We understand we have a long way to go, but we are proud of what's happening with places like CareSource, GE, the things that the hospitals are doing. We just heard from Children's today that they are going to expand. So people are reinvesting in the city. Are they reinvesting at the level that we want? Not yet, but we're going to keep working hard to make that happen. I'm involved in some efforts to make sure that we work closer together as a region. You know, I'm part of this group called One Dayton. We're trying to find ways that we can do that better. But the one thing I'm most excited about, and I always save it for last, the thing I'm most excited about is trying to improve safety within our community. It is my new belief that, I've worked on a lot of things in my 12 years in the commission, but my belief going forward is everything that we can do to continue to reduce crime and make our streets safer will do so much for our city. It'll make people want to live here more. It'll make investors want to put capital into our community and grow jobs. It makes people want to live here and just buy houses. It's good all the way around. It's good for the schools. Schools feel safer. So my focus going forward, and it has been really for the last 3 years, is what we can do to make sure our streets are safer. My time's up. I hope I can answer some questions. But again, my name is Joey Williams. Please remember me November 5th. And if you're thinking about voting for me, go vote now at the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Thank you. If you're going to vote for me, vote now.
I have two questions. And it wasn't designated as to who it's for, but as I read them, I think it's for both the City Commission and the mayor. So, mayor's get it. Advance. What the question is. North Main Street and adjacent neighborhoods have become a marketplace for illegal drug trade. As residents, we observe drug exchanges, money transfers before our very eyes. Fallout from this activity has infiltrated our neighborhoods and are transforming our streets to places of lawlessness. Dayton police can only do so much. They surveillance the drug deals, they break up drug gangs, dismantling drug businesses. It really doesn't fall in the realm of normal community police enforcement. It's a responsibility of the DEA. Residents can only do so much. Over the past 2 decades, we reported license plates, descriptions of individuals, use drug hotline, yet the drug trade continues and grows ever larger, infiltrating our communities. Until the drug trade is dismantled, there is no hope for economic recovery of North Main Street. The question do you plan to take to restore our neighborhoods and eradicate drug trafficking, one of the primary causes of crime and deterioration of our neighborhoods? Before I step away, the second one I think is related. It says, I am a single woman living in the FROC area. When I am asked where I live, I receive concern and disbelief. I am told that Dayton is not a place for a young single woman like myself to reside. Question, what do you plan to do to restore the reputation of Dayton, Ohio among outlying areas which draw away from our resources of the center city, and they do not respect our center city? So, that's for the commission.
What's the order?
Let me go ahead first. Who said that?
He said it. I told him to say it.
I believe that outside of staying in prayer for things to get better, we have to take ownership as citizens and use every mechanism that's available to us to report every activity that we see. You know, there's a fear factor out there of getting involved and reporting things that we have to overcome. And the mechanism that we use is we call our police department, which is why we have a law department in order to serve the people. We have to work collectively to get the type of information that we need so that when it gets to the courts, that there is evidence that can put these individuals that are breaking the law in the places that they need to be. Again, it has to be a collective effort. And we can't give up. We have to overcome the fear associated with it, because if we're not involved in turning the crime and violence around by doing all we can to see to it that the information associated with it is done, then it's not going to happen, because just one entity cannot do it by themselves. That will contribute to our neighborhoods being revamped, for our neighborhoods to get on the rebound as far as the structure between the community, between the citizens, to grow and prosper. We have to do it together.
This is a great question, and it could take a long time to answer it really in just a way, but I'll just say that, as I said before I sat down, this is the #1 priority for me. We've got to do things to make our streets safer, and that's where I'm spending most of my energy. I'm spending a lot of energy as the City Commission's liaison to a group called SERVE. That's a community initiative to reduce gun violence. That's a group that we're going out into the community. We have people who are going in, when things happen in our community, they're going and they're trying to find out what's going wrong, making sure that we can get information to try to help reduce issues early. We're really happy about one of the things that happened this past summer. We went about 11 weeks without a homicide. Really happy about that. Now, do we want to go longer? Do I have a goal for us to have more than 11 weeks? Yes, I do. But we're happy about that accomplishment. I'm also a part of a group called CPC, Community Police Council. This is a group that we try to make sure that folks in the community and the police get together in casual settings so we can break down some of those walls. Because one of the issues we have is our citizens don't want to call the police. Our citizens really don't feel very comfortable calling the police. And our police don't like the fact that the citizens won't call them. So we're trying to break that barrier down. So that's one of the things we're working on also. Also, we're trying to be very supportive of our police department. This is the first year in a long time we've had a recruit class. I'm really happy about that. We hope to continue to have that so we can make sure that we get some more new cops out on the street. But at the end of the day, it is a community effort. We're better together. We're going to have to work together to make things better in our community. I wish I had time to talk about the story about the Phoenix Project. I mean, what we did in the Phoenix Project was great. It was collaboration between the city, schools, Good Samaritan Hospital, citywide, and of course, all the neighbors. And with that project, we were able to eradicate a lot of the issues within our community. Have we done enough? Everybody here would probably say no. But have we made progress? Yes. One last thing, I'll save it for later, but you know, what we're doing with tearing down abandoned buildings, that's also helping too. Giving folks opportunities and places where they can hide and do some of this drug activity is also a big help too. We're going to do over 500 this year in terms of demolition of buildings in our city. Thank you.
Mr. Mims?
One of the issues that we deal with drugs, although there are multiple, but one of those is called supply and demand. And when you have a large group of individuals, an increasing, growing number of individuals who seem to have their hopes and dreams diminished, then the aspect of some type of an abuse, it doesn't make a difference whether it's drugs or whether it's alcohol or whether it's prostitution or some type of violence, then those things tend to take the place of doing normal type activities. And when we look at, unfortunately, some of the circumstances that we have in the city, some of the problems that have been duly noted, even in conjunction with the school system, that early on in a child's life, if that child does not feel valued, then they become prime individuals, candidates, if you will, for abuse somewhere down the line. When they don't think that the skill set that they have is going to get them the quality of life that they see on TV, then they start looking for alternatives. We have some of our young people who are involved in drugs, at least on the selling end, unfortunately, are doing that with full knowledge of neighbors, full knowledge of parents, and sometimes even full knowledge of authorities for a variety of reasons. Some because it's what that household depends on because of some of the joblessness that we have in the community. That household depends on that to bring some type of bread and butter, bacon to the table. Some cases, there are programs that are going on where they're trying to find the big fish, if you will. Because most of the people who are dealing drugs in our community are not the big fish. There are people who are outside the community who are providing and supplying those drugs. Our people who live in Dayton don't have control over planes and boats and trains to get drugs to this location from overseas. More and more we find that some of our individuals or some of the individuals who are being caught are in our suburban areas because so many of them are involved in that particular process. The other problem that we have is that we do not have a sufficient process for rehab. And once you're caught up on drugs and begins to be a habit and a problem within your system, simply saying no to drugs does not work. So there has to be a better rehab system. We have criminals who go in, or those who go in the institutions because they've been involved in drugs, and then when they come out because they have not been properly rehabilitated, they try to find a job, and there are multiple problems associated with this, okay? So then they find, again, some other vehicle for trying to address their personal needs, because everyone has their personal needs. And far too often we look at the individuals, like I've said before, who are falling in the river, and you're pulling them out, but no one takes the time to go upriver and see why they fell in. And so we have to make some real serious decisions. One way of getting or improving upon the relationship between our police and our citizens is starting early, starting young. Dare programs, community policing, and situations where our young citizens become more aware of the police and they're not afraid of police, and they're more comfortable in terms of sharing with them. But there are a lot of cultural issues with letting the police know what's going on in this community. Being called a snitch, and some people making examples of them, because it is a very, very big trade. It's not one solution, it's many, I wish I had the answer, but there are a lot of things that we have to take into consideration as we try to address it. Thank you.
I want to make a remark, if I can. I wrote that question, and I'm not talking about the social problem of drug abuse or drug use. I'm simply talking about the business of drug trade on Main Street, and nobody's really addressed that. And we don't need snitches because we see it right before our eyes, and the Dayton police do not have the resources to address, to combat this issue and do regular community policing. So that is my question. It's not about the broad, general aspect of drug users, or the problem with drug abuse. Okay.
All right. First off, there is hope. When I moved to South Park, my neighborhood looked a lot like what North Main Street looked like. It was rough. It is no longer rough. The values have gone up. It's a good community. I'm going to tell you how that happened. I'm going to tell you the tools we use to combat crime in our neighborhood very effectively. And I'm going to talk about why these things happen, why people get the idea that it's okay to do crime in Dayton because they're not going to get approached. So first off, we made a decision that it wasn't about our houses back about 95, 96. It's about the people in the neighborhood. And we work really hard to make our neighbors become friends. That's our tagline, where neighbors become friends. And we worked very hard at making sure everybody knew each other, got along, had call lists. But you know what's really been the game changer? It's been the internet. And it sounds like, oh, Esrati, all he thinks is the internet will solve all problems. But I can tell you this, a well-informed neighborhood. I had a guy come hustling me, try to tell me he's a veteran, and he'd been turned down for money from the Veterans Service Board, and that he needed money to get to California. I took his picture, put it up online. All these people say, I know that guy. I called the Veterans Service guy who I know, and he's like, we'll help him, but let's, and the scam just got, just like that. Everybody knew to watch out for this hustler. We had a woman who was very against security cameras in the neighborhood. Then her boyfriend's car got hit in the middle of the night. And one of those cameras picked up the car, and they found out who it was. Because people looked at the footage online, and they said, oh, I know that car, and boom, 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 connect the dots. We have been very effective at doing this. And getting people online gives us an opportunity to do something about it. But that's not enough. And that's not what the root cause is. The root cause is when you walk past all these boarded up buildings and everything, and you walk past parks that have backboards that look like this, it's an indication that we have no pride in our community. Okay, that's the backboard at Burkham. They got so embarrassed by me showing this, they took it down. This was the backboard across. That's a nice rim, isn't it? How about Parkside, where we just piled up the branches on our basketball courts because we were too lazy to pick them up and take them away. I went and cleared them up. I've hung over 250 basketball nets on our courts to make sure our kids have places to play. Tried to hang them up down here at E.J. Brown, but guess what? Brand new school building, brand new court, we took the rims down. Because we don't want kids playing basketball because they were getting in fights. Well, that's a police issue. But we don't have enough police officers to make sure the kids don't get in fights. Well, hello. What are we doing about that? Judge Wagner says it's time to eliminate the test so we can hire, the moment somebody drops off, we hire them. I said that 20 years ago. We're long overdue for changing our process. We've had police chiefs that weren't allowed to carry a gun in the city because they hadn't been through our academy, because we have a private boys club running our police department. You all know it? Yes. And it's time for it to stop. Same thing goes to the fire department, by the way. Both of them. It's time to change the system. The people you've had in office for the last 8 and 12 years have had plenty of chances to change it, haven't done it. So, you really have to think, what's going to change things? They're talking about, oh, we're going to tear down all these houses, right? Well, right now the estimated bill for tearing down those houses is $60 million. We can spend $60 million tearing down houses, and then we got $60 million worth of empty lots. I've never heard anybody say, I'm moving to Dayton, Ohio, because they got more empty lots than any place else. We got to do things that make people want to come in and buy the houses and fix them up. Or we got to do something really innovative, like say if you want to build some new development somewhere else and sprawl out our community some more and require more infrastructure, you got to take some inventory off the market. This has been done successfully in other communities. So forcing the people in Austin Landing, every time they want to build something new, they got to take something down somewhere else. So they have to actually pay for it and take it down. But the real matter is, first thing we got to do is stop having the houses get foreclosed on and get the people kicked out. Because when the people get kicked out, you know what happens immediately after. The copper goes out, next thing, the property is unreclaimable and it gets really expensive. So first thing, we got to keep the people in. Second thing, we got to hold the banks accountable, and we got to stop kicking people out for banks when the banks aren't taking care of the properties they already have. I want a judgment in small claims court. I've got a small business. Could I get the sheriff to go and collect that bill? No. Why do the banks get that privilege? Because the banks don't deserve that privilege. We have to do things completely different if we're going to see the Dayton come back. We have to restore pride in our community, pride in our neighborhoods. And last but not least, people keep asking me, aren't you afraid going over there on West Dayton after dark and hanging basketball nets? Nope. I told you I was crazy. But I feel safer walking around hanging basketball nets because the kids respect me. I know I've been out there with the gangbangers, trust me. They come up and they say, "Net man's here." I get stopped as I'm walking down the street. "Thank you for the nets." These things cost less than yard signs, political yard signs. You see, some candidates have no problems putting them up every corner, every empty lot. They don't care. They'll put them up in front of abandoned houses. I spent my money on basketball nets, and I put 3 new rims up in Princeton because they couldn't play a full court game of basketball out there. That's how we start to solve the drug problem. That's how we start to restore pride in our community. That's how we get out there and say, this is our community. We got a level of pride and respect, and we deserve it from you, and we're not going to tolerate this crap anymore. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear it for the commissioners. Candidates. Now, we'll have the candidates for mayor, alphabetically. Wagner gets to come, Judge Wagner gets to come first.
Good evening. I'm not going to make you do it again. Okay. I've been told by Mr. Esrati to keep this positive, and I'm going to try, but I always have to come back to this part. This is really important. I want to tell you why I'm doing this. 9,000 jobs. That's how many jobs we've lost in the last 5 years in Dayton, Ohio. 700 in the last 2 reporting months. We have 700 fewer jobs. When we look at all the problems that we're amassing around Dayton, the abandoned houses, the loss of population, the budget strains, the problems for our schools, 45% of our children living in poverty. We are now the 4th hungriest city in this nation. 4th hungriest. It all comes back to 9,000 jobs. Those jobs didn't leave because of the recession. NCR didn't leave because of the recession. Merrill Lynch didn't leave because of the recession. Thompson Hine Flory didn't leave because of the recession. Think Patna didn't leave because of the recession. These companies are leaving because they don't feel that Dayton's treating them fairly or giving them a fair shake. We are very fortunate to have our immigration community coming into the city. Islam is here and Adil now getting involved. That is a wonderful thing. They are buying houses and they're fixing them up. But we can't keep up with how fast we're losing population. We can't tear down houses fast enough to keep up with the number of houses that are deteriorating. So, to the positive stuff. There are solutions. There are things we can do to turn this city around. But as David Esrati said, it's going to take some change. It's going to take some massive change. First, I'm going to start at City Hall, where we have to find a leader at City Hall, not the mayor, I'm talking about in management, who's not just a bureaucrat, but a business person. A business person. I'm very proud of the fact that I've owned businesses, that I run a business now as an attorney, that I've counseled businesses as an attorney, I've managed businesses, because I understand a lot of the needs of businesses, what businesses want, what they're looking for. But we need somebody inside City Hall and management that understands that. We need them to understand two things. Number one, what businesses are looking for, talk like a business, but also to understand customer service, to improve the attitudes of folks in City Hall so that they're working more closely and more carefully. You know, the city realized that they needed to do this, and about 4 years ago, they did a survey or a study by Matrix Corporation. They came out with 25 recommendations about how the city could better interface with businesses to improve their relationship with businesses. After 4 years, about 4 to 5 of those recommendations have been implemented. The other 20 still lying on the table. We won't change unless we actively, aggressively pursue businesses and make them feel comfortable, welcome, and treat them fairly. I'm not saying give away the store. I'm saying treat them fairly. You can't have give one business the benefit of cleaning up all of their junk out of their property and not other businesses, as you saw in the headlines in the paper this morning, maybe. We've got to treat everyone fairly. We don't. So we've got to get businesses together. We've got to get somebody here who understands businesses and will aggressively pursue them. We've got to clean up our neighborhoods by, as Mr. Esrati said, by aggressively going after banks, by changing some of our laws, changing some of our systems so that they react faster. We can make them faster. I handled a lot of foreclosures when I was in the court. And I know how to make the system faster, make it better, make it more enforceable. Over half our properties are now owned by outsiders. And they don't care much about this city. At least some of them don't. I won't say by any means that all of them do, but some of them don't. And they're partly responsible for the deterioration that's going on. We need to make sure that we hold their feet to the fire by making sure that we get liens against their property that are not only against the property that's damaged, but against all their properties, so that they can't sell any property without taking care of the one that's causing a problem. We can do that. We can do that. Oh, man. Time.
And now Commissioner Nan Whaley.
Good evening. Thank you all for staying through this period to see the mayor candidates. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dayton City Commissioner Nan Whaley. I've been your commissioner for 8 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the citizens of Dayton. I know most of you in the room. I've knocked on your doors. I've been to your house, talked to you pretty detailed on a lot of the issues facing our community. I'm a resident of Five Oaks. I've lived there for 14 years now, which makes it's kind of unbelievable to me that I've lived in Five Oaks for 14 years, and love our neighborhood and love the community that we have, even with its challenges. I decided to run for mayor because I felt like we needed a mayor that was full-time, had the follow-through, and had the energy to get things done. So that's the reason why I decided to run, and I put together a plan called the Roadmap for a New Dayton. It's around 11 pages, so I will not get through it in 5 minutes. It is on my website, so if you click nanwhaley.com and click Roadmap, you can read it there, and then you can even make comments, and they come right to me, so feel free to do that. But it is around, just to give you an idea, it's around jobs, creating jobs, work on our neighborhoods to make them stronger, and being an open and vibrant community. I think that's something that's really key to our community that makes it so special, as we see with the deal running today on the school board and the efforts that we're underway with Immigrant Friendly. The jobs are so key for our community, it's true. You know, when people have jobs, other things take care of themselves when we start to see investment in the community. We have gone through the greatest recession since the Great Depression. It is no secret that Ohio was hit hard, and Southwest Ohio was hit hard through that recession. And we've seen those jobs lost. When I walk door to door, just this week, I was over in Deweese, for example. A man told me that he was laid off on Thursday, and he's a tool and die maker, not because there wasn't work, but because of the government shutdown. And so when these things keep on hitting us, from the recession to furlough days, the contractors don't get the dollars, even though people are working at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. These are the things that happen to our community, and that's why I really think we need to leverage our assets. So in the jobs plan, I talk about working with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the airport, our health and education campuses, our aquifer and water supply, to really use those opportunities to create jobs in our community. It's been signed and supported by the entire City Commission. I recognize that the mayor is the leader, but they have to have the commission support, and that is super important to me as we move forward. I've done a lot of work in neighborhoods. I think you all know that, with the effort that I've done to make sure that we get our fair share plus of dollars coming to the city from the state and federal government, advocating for the demolition of some properties that are too far gone. I can tell you that this week we got a letter from HUD that declared some of the neighborhoods, a letter saying this process is working, and we're seeing the vacancy go down in neighborhoods because of this effort, and also that effort of rehabs. The neighborhoods that they called the vacancy going down are actually the FROC neighborhoods, were all listed in that area. So it shows that the work that we've done and the work that we continue to do in this community, we knew it's a long stretch, we know it's going to take work, but I appreciate your partnership in that effort and your support in that effort. From Santa Clara, Five Oaks, all the neighborhoods in the FROC neighborhood area, we have seen the struggle with vacancy pretty intensely, and I appreciate your partnership with that. You know, when Midmark decided to come to Dayton, I was really excited. Ann Eiting is a great CEO. They just moved down to the UD campus last month. And I was really excited because I know we need more private sector leaders. And so when she made the announcement, I drove up to Versailles, which is about an hour north, had lunch with her, met with her, and talked about what she wanted for her, what she wanted for her business, and how she thought Dayton fit into that. That's the kind of leadership we need as mayor. We need someone that's going to take the time to get to know the small business CEOs, figure out how we grow those jobs, and have relationships and build it. That's why we need someone who's full-time, who is committed and has that energy to make that happen. And that's why I want to be your mayor. I am so honored to be able to serve you these past 8 years. I have enjoyed it. It has been a true blessing to me. It's made me a stronger, better person, and I have learned a lot. I want to take what I've learned and do my best as the next mayor of Dayton, and I'm asking for your support November 5th. Thank you.
You guys take any questions? Thank you. We had people writing questions. The first question is for both of you. It's about the Dayton residents having on the ballot about buying electricity as an aggregate. Okay. It says, who will represent the aggregate? How will consumers input our concerns? Can we create an aggregate for our gas veteran choices? There needs to be a clearly stated explanation of the difference between energy generation, suppliers, delivery, and billing agencies. DP&L says there's 40 choices. How do these 40 different suppliers become suppliers? Who are they? And what exactly do they do? So the question is,
who's going to run the show
for
negotiations?
Yeah. The riders and others listed expenses on our bills vary from company to company in addition to the kilowatt hours.
So do you want to kind of explain the government aggregate? Is that what?
That's
I can do that first. On the ballot is the opportunity for the city of Dayton to aggregate electrical costs to make it cheaper for residents to have cheaper electricity. Hundreds of cities, most of the cities around us have done this, and if we pass this, and I hope we do, I've already voted, you can vote early, I voted yes on it. It allows the city government to go forward and really negotiate as a group, the whole city, to get lower rates. Now, it's still the DP&L, it's the they describe, I'm going to try to describe it as well as possible, is where the electricity comes from, not the lines. And so that's what we're trying to do. Now, the reason why the Commission and the Commission 5 unanimously supported this was, I mean, and I put it this way, I read my bills every day, but I haven't signed up for any of this because there's all these, like, you know, maybe a charge here, a charge there. If you sign up to get out, it's harder to get out. They have, you know, when these people are coming to your door, I don't have the time, frankly, and I don't think our citizens have the time to know every piece of the electricity bill, but I think they do want cheaper bills. And so this will allow us to all come together to see a cheaper bill at the end of it. And I think that that's what government should do. It should make, you know, allow people to come together. We vote yes, then we allow someone to negotiate for us, and we'll see a cheaper bill at the end of the time. We're also looking to see if the citizens of Dayton do pass it, if there's an opportunity for us to work with the other cities that are aggregating, because the more people you get in the pool, the more negotiating power you have. So but first we want to pass it and then see what opportunities are out there for our citizens. It will still take a process. It'll be open bid. There'll be a public process. It's very open. But we wanted to give that opportunity to see, I want to see a cheaper bill, and I want people that know what they're talking about to negotiate on my behalf. Thanks. Did you have a question about it?
Yeah, we're going to be able to do that for gas too, not just for electric.
I don't know if there's an opportunity for gas. If there is, we'll certainly put it on the ballot, but this is the first one, and so we're asking people to support it. You know, any opportunities where we can pool everyone together and try to make cheaper prices, I think is something that we should do for our community. I don't know if you have anything to add about it.
This was Judge Wagner. A few months ago, you alluded to Dayton Public Schools having a bad reputation. Primary causes are due to residential losses in Dayton. The writer indicates they believe that teachers do their best they can, but the children are underserved in the public schools. What do you propose to do to improve Dayton schools and improve the reputation of Dayton, Ohio, as a community to raise a family?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. First of all, I do think that there's a perception that Dayton schools are bad, and I will say that, and it is a hindrance to getting people here. I don't believe it. I'm just saying it's perception. My raised two daughters here in Dayton, and one of them went to Dayton Public Schools and did very well. She then went on to college, and now she's an editor of textbooks over in Columbus. She's a terrific kid, and that was an experience that she couldn't have done any better going anywhere else. She did great in Dayton Public Schools. I believe in the teachers in Dayton Public Schools. I was a former teacher myself. I was a teacher before I went off to law school, and so I understand teaching and I understand education. I have an education degree. And I really believe in Dayton Public Schools, and I believe that we have to sell that. We have to make that a goal of what we want to do, is to sell our schools because they are good, and our teachers are amazing. And every teacher that I've ever met in Dayton Public Schools wants our kids to succeed. I really believe that. There are plans on my website as well, ajwagner.com. And on my website, you'll find an education plan. And it really consists of 4 elements. Number one is I pay attention to the fact that when a child is 3 years old, if they live in poverty, they'll have a vocabulary of about 500 words. If they're middle class, they have a vocabulary of about 1,500 words. There's already a huge gap for many of our kids. And if we're going to solve that gap, we have to start at the cradle. We have to recruit our parents and teach our parents, especially those who live in poverty, how to work with their kids, how to talk to their kids, how to read to their kids, how to get their kids outside and point to things and say, what's this, what's this, what's this. We have to help them understand that their relationship with their child matters, and that they must pay attention to their children and help develop them within them the skills that those middle class kids have, so that By the time they get to kindergarten, they have their skills, and by the time they get to third grade, they're reading. We have to have every child who's under 200% of the poverty level. I'm working with the county, and we're working on a program that will allow them, everyone who's under 200% of the poverty level, to get into preschool. Because those kids who haven't caught up or haven't had the advantages that I'm talking about, we need them to catch up before they get to kindergarten. We can make a difference. We won't catch all of them up. We can make a difference in a lot of kids' lives that way. I'm on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I'm big into mentoring. I want to recruit tons of mentors to help those kids who don't have a stable adult in their life and to work with them when they are in school. It makes a difference in their lives. Kids who have mentors, stable mentors for a year or more, they'll do better in school. They stay in school. They get in fewer fights, and they do succeed. They're 46% less likely to get involved in illegal drugs. Mentoring is huge, and it's a big thing. And then I want to send our kids who there's going to have to be some rules, but I want to send the kids who want to go to college to at least Sinclair College, tuition free, so that they can get a degree or certification that gets them the kind of job that today's skills are needed, the kind of skills that are needed to get today's jobs. That will not only help those kids, but it will also help us attract jobs if we can get them the right kind of education. Because employers are looking for workforce pools that have that kind of training and education. And so it's important both on the end for our kids and also on the other end for our employers. So that's pretty much my education plan, and that's what I hope to deal with and to do when I'm there.
This is another question for the mayor. It says, with the widespread issue of urban blight, what is the plan for cleaning up the major roads through the city, especially from 5 Oaks northward?
Right. There's also on my website you'll find a plan for cleaning up the blight, and it's also a multi-tiered or multi-step plan. One is we have to tear down those houses that are just beyond repair, just beyond saving. And we have to identify them and tear them down. But we also have to get to the houses that are worth saving before they get to that point. We have to make sure that we have resources available through tax credits and others, tools, TIFs, which are tax increment financing, and other tools that will encourage investment in our neighborhoods, encourage people to invest in our neighborhoods, and bring our neighborhoods back to life. We have to market our neighborhoods. I want to develop a marketing plan for each individual neighborhood. They each have different characteristics and good characteristics. I lived on Wabash for 15 years. I still think Mount Vernon is a great neighborhood. My wife got a job at UV and we moved down that way. But I think Mount Vernon is a great neighborhood here in FROC. There are great assets, beautiful houses, and beautiful places for people to live in. We can market those to the people who work at the VA and other places and make sure that they know about our neighborhoods. We've got to get the realtors involved in our neighborhoods so that we get those houses, get some attention, and they're not going to realtors who say you don't want to live in the city of Dayton. We have to try and get that stopped. We have to also encourage more people to take care of their properties by, as I said earlier, actually I said this earlier, by discouraging disinvestment in the properties, by making sure we enforce our laws more quickly and more strongly and effectively against those absentee landlords and others who are in this community and destroying our neighborhoods. So those are some of that's a quick overview of some of the plans that I have to try and deal with blight.
This is an issue I've been working on a lot as commissioner, and as you know, we've done a lot of demolition, which is one piece of it. We've also worked to make sure that we have a countywide land bank, which is one of 15 in the state. It's also allowing us to get the hardest hit dollars, around $60 million, will only go to 15 counties next year because that land bank is in place. And it has a sustainable funding source of around $1.2 million a year to make sure that we had funding going forward. Those are the first pieces. The other interesting thing that's happening is we started a process called expedited foreclosure in concert with the land bank. And at the beginning, and I know all the neighborhood leaders know, we started doing a project called Lot Links, and we did it around 5 or 6 years ago. When we did Lot Links, the staff of City Hall thought we'd get 20, 25 tops people wanting neighboring properties. We're eating up to like 800, 900 properties on Lot Links. A lot of you have benefited and used that project, and we have benefited because you've done that. We've got an update Wednesday at the commission meeting. 100% of the people that have used this process are paying their taxes. So in addition to the fact that we're putting it in hands of people in the neighborhood, the tax rolls are being stronger and cleaned up. But there's another interesting piece that's going on now with Lot Links. We first started with vacant properties, and then we started to allow expedited to happen for properties that have standing structures on them. We have now seen the expedited foreclosure process now go the other way, where there's actually more people asking for houses than vacant properties, and they're redoing those properties, and they're putting them, again, on the tax rolls, which helps our schools. So this project, again, is one of those examples where we're seeing communities and neighborhoods come in and work on blight. Now, we have if you drive Linda Vista, we got some apartment complexes that have to come down. We still have a lot of large units that must come down. We've really been working on that effort. My favorite one actually that did come down isn't in FROC neighborhood. It's actually 3rd and Gettysburg. It's completely changed the landscape of that area when we work to take some of these complexes down that are basically, the former Chief Redmond said, a problem for fires, a problem for safety, a problem for our police. And it's one of the ways that we can continue to work to deal with some of the drug issues that we were talking about too, Paula. I mean, there's a lot of work that has to be done, and there is no silver bullet on these efforts. So those are the efforts that I would do to really work on, that we've done and continue to support to deal with blight. But we still have to think of ways to do more. I think one of the big issues is home ownership. We have to figure out ways, because the banks have gotten so tight with lending, especially in neighborhoods like mine, they won't lend. And so we have to be more creative and work with credit unions like Wright-Patterson to figure out ways that we can really work home ownership. Because we know that when we have homeowners in our neighborhoods are better taken care of. So that is the next focus. And I think the key point, we've done the vacant property registry. We have done every effort we can. If there's a best practice in a community, we take it and do it in this city. Before I even got on commission, Commissioner Lovelace was a leader on the predatory lending effort that the state legislature said no go on. So we have been a leader on this effort, but we need to stay ahead of the game, because that this people that have worked with these issues for years, it changes and something new is happening. So you can't ever really pat yourself on the back. You have to constantly be thinking of what's the next thing we can do for our neighborhoods. The North Main question is a big issue, and we are working with police to figure out ways that we can work with neighborhoods more to deal with community policing. And resourcing is an issue. We are proud, like Commissioner Williams said, of the number of officers we've been able to put an increase on this year. I think that will help. But we need neighborhoods to be more engaged in that, specifically along North Main. And I know that that's a big ask for some of the people in this room, because you've spent decades and lifetimes working on this issue. But if we're really going to move our neighborhoods forward and we're going to make a difference, we're going to have to spend some more time on it. And that's what I'm asking you to commit to and recommit. I'm committed to this community. I'm committed to this area specifically. It makes me proud to be here. When people talk about why, I get some surprise about living in 5 Oaks, right? But then I talk about, my book club, or my street, or the great relationships I've had, or how I feel so welcomed in this community. We can change the story and change the dialogue, and I want to do that. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Judge Wagner and Commissioner Whaley, you have 30 seconds. Here's the last question. Okay. It's actually 2 of them. It says, it's similar. It says, in larger urban districts, mayors have more say in the running of the schools. Is this something that the city of Dayton has an interest in doing or being a part of? The last question that came in, says, what can you accomplish without the support of two other commission members?
Okay, well, just real quickly, they are kind of different. I do have the support of the Dayton City Commissioners. They've all endorsed me in that effort, so I think, I recognize, and that's one of the things I've really learned, is you have to build consensus on the commission to move forward, and I'm proud of that work and proud of my relationships. We don't agree all the time, but we know how to move forward. The other question is, I think that the mayor's position is key in Dayton Public Schools, but you have to use it as a bully pulpit and figure out ways not to run Dayton Public Schools, because 1 in 3 of our children aren't going to Dayton Public Schools anymore. They're going to charters, they're going to other schools. But how do we rally the community around our students and our children, because they are the future workforce, and that is where our economic development and intellectual capital has to come from. It's an economic development issue, and after school programs and those kind of efforts are something the mayor can really champion. Thanks.
Okay, I've told you my education plan, and pretty much, and that's working with the school board, with the schools, with them as much as possible. I don't want to run the schools. I've got enough problems if I get to run the city. I don't need to run the schools on top of that. Number two, the second question was,
What can you do without?
3 votes. Without 3 votes, not a lot. You can still have the bully pulpit, and you can still ask, you can still market this city, you can go out and put the positive face on it, and ask people to come here and work with individual businesses, and still rah, get out there, let's go, let's do this. I intend to do that. I intend to be, by the way, be a full-time mayor, and I intend to apply all my energy to it. I'm not that old. We're doing all right. Listen, the other part of that is to build consensus. I mean, I've certainly had battles over the years in politics and elsewhere, and certainly when you go up against it and you lose, you come back and say, okay, how do we do this better? How do we do it differently so that we can build a consensus that gets the people all together? I know I'm not going to have any problem working with the commission, no matter who's elected up here. I am friends with all of them.